right, there it is, there it is. There it is, there it is. What's going on, world? Listen, man, it's a different type of setup. Obviously, I got, as usual, phone propped up on chairs and tables and things that I need to do, just having everything set up the way I need to. I might have to move a few things back if I'm being honest. I might even move the chair back. Let's do a quick adjustment while we're here. Phone might drop. Hold on. That's why. Give me a second. Yep. I gotta say, a phone might drop. All right. As good as I'm gonna get it right there. I'm not trying to do too much movement, but I decided to utilize this little it's kind of like a whiteboard. Hold on. Yeah, it's kind of the same material. It's funny because I'm surrounded by whiteboards in this room, but I'm having to project a bit because I didn't bring my headphones. So I didn't have no, or excuse me, not headphones, microphone set up. So I don't have the microphone set up. So I'm projecting a bit. Now, let me see. This is for specifically the other room. I'm probably not supposed to use it, but I was able to clean it off earlier. But we'll do this. I don't know if y'all can see that. Damn, hold on. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm trying to embolden it, but I feel like I'm making it worse. I probably shouldn't be using that, but there it is. TTH 237. I always wanted to do a setup like this. I realize it's best to have like the lighting setup where you have a, in the background, like a little umbrella / ring light and things like that. Umbrella, ring light, from above, camera from above, all that stuff. But right now, this is just how it is. This is what it looks like. I might just do some quick hitters here because energy is slightly dwindling down. I was here hanging out, mainly doing some uploading, you know what I'm saying? And I'm running the ducks in the background right now. So I might have to tell the chat like what's going on. I let the chat already know I'm recording a video, but I might have to let them know like if I'm heading home early or whatnot. Trying to fill that pool with ducks. But listen, man, this is, if anyone's wondering, this is the Truancy hour. It's a different type of setup. Don't have the microphone, which kind of sucks. And again, with this particular setup, I wouldn't have too much places to clip it on my body at least. Pause. And therefore, I would have had to hold the mic like I did in the most previous video, 236. So TTH is the Truancy hour 237. We're at 237, but 236, what I was mentioning was the last one. Projecting a bit right here just so I can get the volume right. I did a slight tester. I realized I had to turn the volume up just to hear myself. A lot of times I'm speaking more from a lower tone, just to have some consistency when I speak, rather than like doing my highs. Because when I start doing my highs too much, start accessing the highs a little bit in the vocal range, my voice starts to crack and it starts to peter out. So this is kind of my comfort zone, if not my lower level. Also, I'm still getting over this cold. I'm still dealing with, battling, getting a handful of phlegm out there, if you will. A bit of phlegm, I should say. I don't know. I shouldn't say a handful. But yeah, man, there it is, man. I was wondering. But this is the Truancy hour, 237. Normally I would be rocking the, I don't know if this is gonna be my new setup or I just prop it like this. But I was watching a video about procrastination this morning, and about it's less about the work and more about why can't you just look forward to enjoying the product, if not enjoying the outcome or how things will make you feel when you complete certain things, you understand? So for example, instead of worrying about oh, I gotta run this morning. It's like just worried more so about, yeah, I'm gonna get through this, but I'm gonna feel so much better health wise after I run. So there's things like that where like even today I felt like maybe I'm gonna have the same results I had before, where I feel a little neglected, if not unloved, and I'm just trying to compensate that time with just working. So I was always putting myself to work. If I wasn't at my job working, I would put myself to work by just working in general. So anyway, the point I'm making is that this morning I was struggling with that a little bit, where I was like, I thought about getting out of bed. I ended up sleeping for another hour. It started getting closer to noon, and I'm like, like I take my shower and I'm laying down, and I'm like, or before I even took my shower, I just laid back down, and then I saw the video, and I'm just like, you know what, man, it's a good sign to force myself to get up. And I was very happy with the results today. Talked to the barista at the coffee spot that I go to, and we just talked about the seasonal coffee, shit like that. And she was asking like, hey, last time I seen you, you were wearing a suit. So today I'm wearing the actual, Columbia University. Got this in New York City. But she was asking me, like, what were you doing with your suit? You had a conference. How did your conference go? She was very attentive to just like seeing how I was doing. And I didn't see her for like 3-4 weeks. And I was like, to tell the truth, it was a video recording in a conference room. She's like, okay, well, how did that go? And I was like, I don't know yet, but I'll say it's good. I'm just gonna say it's good. She looked at me and was like, okay, we'll go with that. It's good. That's all you gotta worry about. It's good. And I think just having the conversation with her about that, and it was a very brief elevator conversation because she's taking my order, she's wanting to know what I need, and she's brewing up the coffee and shit. And I'm sitting there like, I'm very embarrassed and also anxious about having to speak about myself, even speaking about the Truancy Hour, especially with strangers. It's hard to explain to people things that I want to do, things that I like to do, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. So that's my message also that I wanted to instill in this slight intro here, is just letting people know, like, I'm human just like everyone else. I'm a work in progress. Rushing out the door because the bus says it's coming in 0 minutes. The bus says 0 minutes, so I'm like, oh shit, let me get out there, or just run over to the bus stop and, over here, get over the hill and then transfer other buses and shit like that. So that's what I'm thinking about. But here we are, the struggles overcame, if you will. And here we are just chilling, just trying to project the voice and just do the best I can when it comes to this recording stuff, man. So anyway, I try to stay consistent with, I don't want to say the topics here, but sure, let's say that the topics. And let's also talk about how at the beginning of each video, if I'm not giving you an intro, if not a rundown of how the morning went, I always have to talk about the university mindset. So intentionally, very intentionally, for those that don't know, this is just kind of to recap a couple things. I intentionally wore my polos, all my polo shirts, whether it was the Ralph Lauren polo brand stuff, or just like, just collared shirts. Made sure I got all those out the way, short sleeve joints, and we got the long sleeves, and then I started rocking the suits. And if I wasn't rocking the suits, you're gonna see me rock these university and college crew necks. If you don't see me in the college crew necks, you'll see me with a university, if not a college hoodie. So I'm gonna do that as much as possible for each weekend that I'm doing university mindset stuff. And the reason for that, these are very intentional. These are very intentional and stuff. Give me a second. I gotta. If my friend Lilith that streams, if she sees this video right here, I'm about to respond to your chat real quick. Here we go. So yeah, there you go, Lilith. I'm gonna leave you a little message. Much love. Good to see you. Much appreciated. You know what I'm saying? Check this out, man. Let's talk about this university mindset. I've been speaking about it more or less for the past 36 videos, and now we're at 37. So this is the 37th time that, I'll give you guys a friendly reminder, or this is where my mindset is at. Because, for me, I get an example, man. Every time I have access to these university spaces and places, just like right here, whether it's, being on the way here, or even just being here, existing here, or grabbing some food, or getting some coffee nearby before I get here, things like that. My thing is this, man. I get a sense of peace and wisdom, peace, quiet, and wisdom. Personally, that's what I get. That's what I achieve here. And it's much needed with the chaotic life that I was used to, and sometimes the chaotic life that I live, if not, impose on myself sometimes just to become better. That's a whole other conversation, but just hear me out. I'm thinking that my hair is sticking out, but it's just like the little water spout above me. That's crazy. Anyway, I get this, peace and wisdom, and I'm able to learn and study and even self-reflect from a very peaceful place and very quiet place and a very, I don't know, basically it's wisdom and knowledge when I'm here, you understand? So it doesn't matter if I'm here in this, empty conference room, and I'm happy I'm able to get, access to these on the weekends. It doesn't matter if it's the study rooms. It doesn't matter if it's these smaller study rooms, the smaller conference rooms, or the smaller, because these rooms are like multi-purpose. But the larger ones, no one's here, no one checks on it, and the security is like, we know this motherfucker, he always be here, you know what I'm saying? He be flashing the badge and everything, so we know who he is, bruh. My thing is, when I have access to this, I start to gain and acquire a level of peace and knowledge that is very necessary just for my mind, body, and soul. And it's very selfish, and I think I encourage people to be a little more selfish with themselves in terms of taking care of yourself, because the best version of yourself can take care of everyone else in that regard. But for me, it's like, how can I one, document this knowledge, this reflection, these notes that I'm taking on my phone, and then I transfer the notes from my phone to this notepad here, and which I'm going to pull out in a second. Pause. And I wanted to just publicly impart the same wisdom and peace through these videos to you guys, to the viewers, to people who check in on stuff. I wanted people to understand that that's the place that this is coming from. And hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully it translates in the best way possible. So when I say university mindset, that's what that is. A lot of people don't have access to these university spaces and places the same way that I do. And like, I'm the type of person, I traveled around different cities trying to scope out a city I might want to move to, or just sometimes people would hook me up with like plane tickets, or I'd just be able to go to different places to hang out. And every time I went there, I wanted to see if it wasn't a major city that had a major sports team. Like, for example, when I was in Tampa Bay, they had the Tampa Bay Rays and they had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But also before that, when I was in El Paso, they don't have like a major team, but they did have the minor league Chihuahuas team, and they're more of a college town, so they had the El Paso Miners. Miners as in MINERS, as in like they're mining with pickaxes in a cave. Not that, you know what the hell I'm talking about. Not that what's the song I'm thinking about? Not like us. You know what I'm saying? Not like us, bro. Not that funny shit. But anyway, that's my thing. So I was able to, the thing is, you can go on the campuses and you would be able to just get access to the bookstores, the college stores where they have the gear and the, the study book, or just whatever they had, like everything from like tumblers. Is that what they're called? The Stanley cups, the whatever, the coffee cups and shit. And then like, crew necks, hoodies and stuff like that. And obviously, like, I was able to go to like UW, Seattle U, same things here. But I was decided like, wait, if I'm in a college town or if I'm in a small town, that's what I'm gonna get. So like I said, when I was in Cedar Rapids, I was about 30 minutes to an hour away from Iowa City. Went to Iowa City, got the Iowa Hawkeyes. So it's just things like that. So that's why when you see me rock these, it's from my travels, usually. Point I'm making is this. You can have access to those places. You can literally go to those places and buy those things. But just simply being able to be on campus and just kind of peacefully be there and just, chill in a library, a conference room, a break room, like I said, a study room, if you will. To have access to university spaces and places, people feel like you need to have access to that to be a better version of yourself. Other people even feel like they need to have access to colleges, universities, community colleges, vocational institutes, technical colleges, art schools, culinary schools, you name it, all the et ceteras. People feel like they need to have access to these things simply to get a better version of themselves or to have a better value for themselves. A lot of people don't really value themselves, you understand? So simply because people are not valuing themselves, they're placing this certificate, if not this degree, and then even like, those things allot you they'll allot you and allow you a higher wage, a better wage, a more affordable wage, depending on how you're trying to live, right? My thing with that is this: you've always been valuable before you even achieve those things. I don't want to stop people from chasing their dreams and achieving things, but just remember the value of who you are as a human being, or just the value of your soul as an individual, just as a person who deserves love and respect from people that may not love and respect you. Because, a lot of times it's like, listen, if you want to be a surgeon, you want to cut bodies open and stuff and properly put people back together or properly fix them and help them. Yeah, you want a certified person. You don't want someone who's claiming to be a surgeon. You want someone who is certified. So that's fair. But what I'm saying is certifying your soul's existence and you as a human being, Brett. I need people to realize that you got to get back to just loving yourself. Get back to the core of loving who you were, the process of who you were, because I'm pretty sure on the way to where you're going, there's college students right now catching the bus, giving up their seat on a bus to like an elderly person, if not a handicapped person. That's a valuable thing. That's a beautiful thing. That's a reason to love yourself. That's a reason to respect yourself. That's a reason to be loved. That's a reason to be respected. And it shouldn't come from anyone else but you first. You understand? It shouldn't come from anyone else but you first. I feel like I'm supposed to move that way. Wait, the T way. Let me do that. Did I make it worse? I don't know. Point being is this, guys. University mindset just starts from within. You don't have to go to university. You don't have to go to a college campus. You understand? You don't have to go to any of those things to finally become a validated individual, an individual who deserves to be loved and respected. You can simply just start really looking into yourself. You understand? Self-reflecting within yourself a little bit. Just asking yourself questions. Asking yourself very specific questions like, how do I explain this? When you start really looking to the degrees of things in your life that you have survived, withstood, and handled up to this point, and then in turn, because you've handled, withstood, and survived those things, there's also a degree of things and a threshold of things that you draw the line at. You will no longer tolerate certain things. So there's degrees from the past and degrees to anticipate. You understand? And there's a balance there where you can become present. Because of those degrees of things, you can start certifying your soul or you as a human being. Just simply certifying yourself, simply loving yourself, simply respecting yourself. You no longer tolerating things and you recognizing certain things is a form of self-love and a form of respect, self-respect, if you will. And you got to be very cognizant of that. That's my idea of university mindset. Remember that. I'll be right back. All right. Forgive me for that. I am back. Like I said, I'm still getting over a cold, so your boy had to, forgive me, hawk a few loogies, blow the nose, use the bathroom, all that. So I knew I should have brought an extra drink with me, keep myself a little hydrated and whatnot. And then there was a couple of people who needed help with an elevator. It seemed as though English might have been their second or third language, so I actually just had to talk to somebody and like a security guard. But it wasn't too big of a situation. University mindset is something that's important to me because it's something that I'm working on as well. Something that I'm still continuing to, I guess, process here and there, And the reason why I make these videos, and I said this in the most previous recording, I want to say. If it wasn't that, it was the one before it. But I was like, a lot of this stuff that I'm doing now is to kind of just be publicly honest and vulnerable. This is just where my mindset is at. This is what I feel like is necessary. This is what I feel like may or may not apply here, if not in the future. And funny enough, a week from now, a month from now, a year, even like a whole whatever, like decade from now, I may or may not agree with these things. But I'm trying to put my positive foot forward because it's like, as much as I may not agree with it, as long as I'm saying something that's positive, and putting that out there, putting that forward, you understand? That's what matters. That's what's important to me. Is that still in the shot? Hold on. That's still good. It might have been the phone that moved, but 2:37. Let me move the T. Is that right? Maybe it's just me. if I did that right. Okay, I think, but you guys can kind of see it. I try to do the least amount of edits on here. So I did a pause and then a pause and then a re-record. So that way I don't have to crop 2 clips together in an editing app. I don't have time for that. Let's see, man. I'll try to do as many as I can right here. You know, I'll try to keep this as short and sweet as possible. This one might go for a minute because this is actually a note probably wrote earlier last week before bed, before going to work or something like that, if I remember correctly. And let's see if I can get this. I'm gonna try to keep it all concise, you know what I mean, all together. This one, all I wrote was being at a crossroads in my life in 2012. Being at a crossroads in my life in 2012. Now, I don't know how old most of the viewers are. I'm 32, I'm gonna turn 33 this year. 2012, I would have been 19, depending on the month, because my birthday's in the middle of the year. So, let me see, 2012, if we were to account for the beginning of the year up until the end of the year, by the end of the year, I would have been 19. And before then, I would have been about 18. That's also around the time I started growing out my hair. So 2012, excuse me, 2011, when I turned 18, I started growing my hair out. So I was probably about a year into growing my hair out. So it was probably like a little bit of bangs or like right here-ish. It was coming down. I got straight hair. I always thought I had curly hair because I would see all these videos from the 80s of my mom and dad. They had afros. Come to find out, they were just doing perms. So when I started growing my shit out, and I was like, damn, why's my hair straight? What the fuck? So I would buy like the curly hair shampoo, and it wouldn't be working. My dad tried to call me out. He was like, you don't have curly hair. I was like, man, you guys got curly hair. What the fuck? And he's like, no, we don't. I didn't understand what he was trying to say. Because I was so used to, you know, he grew his hair out, but his hair, I never thought about it. Because last time I seen him with long hair, I was a baby. I was like a kid. And ever since then, he would just go on straight baldy. And my mom, she always cuts her hair short. So I never really thought about it. I was like, damn, what the fuck? Whole nother conversation. But anyway, my hair would have been growing out around that time. I would have been growing my hair out during that time period. So I grew it for about 3.5 to 4 years, learning about trim and all that stuff. But let's talk about 2012. 2012 was the projected end of the world, but it realistically was probably just the start of a new calendar. You know, the Mayan calendar, it ends in 2012, but it didn't necessarily say it was the end of the world. It was just the start of a whole new world, which is fair enough because you think about the world we live in now, from the 2012 social media era up until this point, a lot of medical advancements, as well as like, you know, technology and social media and all that stuff, just social, I don't want to say social advancements, but technological and like health advancements. A lot of that has happened. Didn't have much to do with me, but it also did, because I'm existing in that time period and era. 2012 was really interesting for me because I would have been 18, turning 19. I was at a crossroads. There's a note that I wrote, and it either applies to that year or the year before it. I want to say it was the year before, leading up to this. So I'll say beforehand, there was this unknown depression, if not a wave of sadness that kind of just came over me during a stretch of time. So it was anywhere between, I don't know, dude, 4 to 9 months, if you will. I could be lying to you, but I swear, like, for months and weeks at a time, I didn't have a job. I was working at the gym, but I no longer was working. Wasn't able to really get other jobs, and for whatever reason, I wasn't able to get them. And the interesting part about it was I kind of just like stayed in bed, and I would just wait for someone to hand me like $5 or $10 randomly. Like I'll leave my room, eat like a sandwich, like a peanut butter sandwich, and just go back to my room and just kind of chill out. And that was it. You know, and people that bothered me, I would just bother them back. And that was it. You understand? They would bother me, I'd bother them back. My whole thing was this. During that same time period, I stayed in the bed, and like certain things that would anger me, whether it was a video game I was playing, just, you know, binge playing Pokemon, leveling up on there. I would literally lay on my side with my DS. I would lay on the side with the DS and just play the game until like my left side got really tired and worn out. And then I'd lay on the right side, and the right side would get worn out at some point. It would just get tired. The arm or like my ribs or something would just get tired. And I would just be that bored. I'm just laying down all day, just playing video games, hoping for something to fall through, hoping for something to happen. Sometimes pulling out social media on the phone, and this was like a T9 flip phone that had very slow internet. Like he would just wait for shit to load, and I was just like, I have all day. I'm not doing shit. I'm just gonna wait for it to load. So it'd just be like little shit like that. If it wasn't that, it was like a flip phone or like one of those like little, like you just flip it up like a fake sidekick. It was like a fake version of a sidekick, like a slider phone. They had a keypad, and I'm about to go back to doing the fucking slider phones with the keypads. Honestly, I'm tired of smartphones. I'm tired of smartphones, but I like the iPhone camera. I don't know. I'm at a weird point, so we'll see what ends up happening. Oh, Rob is out. But yeah, so my whole thing is this, man. I was upset. I remember just like my mom would say something to upset me. I would punch a wall, punch a hole in the wall. There'd be a lot of holes in the wall until they started. I remember like my landlord's brother, he came by. He was just trying to talk to me in a weird way, like, you got to be cool, man. You got to be cool, because I just thought I think they warned him like I was an angry kid, but I was chilling the whole time, man. But they had to redo the whole wall in my room because it was just filled with holes. They just knew I was an angry kid and I was mad about stuff. And he kind of joked around like, "Hey, man, as long as you're not naked in there, you're all good, man. I'll work on that." And he was just being real cool and peaceful about it. But he would just talk to me like, you gotta learn to control your emotions, man. Like, I can't do it for you, but you gotta do what. And he was really chill and nice about it. He was really nice about everything. I was just a teenager going through stuff, if you will, and just thinking about stuff. And again, like I said, it was an unknown wave of depression and sadness that just hit me randomly. I had all this energy up to this point in my life, and then certain things happened. My breakup was like, what, 2010, 2011-ish? So, 2010, I should say, sorry. So, it wasn't that, 2009, 2010. It was like 09, 010. And if it wasn't that, it would have been like being let go from the job. It would have been all type of other things. It would have been, a certain grandma passing away, an uncle passing away. It was just one thing after another. Like, my friend died in 08. So it was like 1 year. It's like, the more I think about it, like each year something, it was like so much good things were happening, but like these weird bad things, like someone passing away, would hit me really hard. And maybe that's what was lingering, but at the same time, there was something deeper that I probably didn't really quite process at that time. That just kind of just sent me in this funk where I was really low. You understand? So anyways, 2012 was this weird crossroads for me where it's like, you're going to be old enough to start buying your own alcohol. So mind you, I was already drinking alcohol at like 15, 16, 17-ish, around that time period. Whenever they handed the first beer, or like I just stole my random first daiquiri little bottle thing and just drank it like I was feeling the buzz, you know what I'm saying? And people would tell me, that's just light, it's not even that heavy. Yo, you gotta try this. And then like, me just trying to like placebo the effect of being drunk and just tripping out. But I don't know. I was just bullshitting, every time people reflect on their life 5 to 10 years ago, there's a lot of cringy stuff. As long as you're not posting that stupid ass shit online, and as long as that shit stays within the household, I think you're good. You know what I'm saying? I think you're good. I think you'll be all right. Point I'm making is like, there was a lot of stuff going on in that time period I probably didn't quite process in the most healthy way, if not in general, just not really processing. Yeah, that was the point I made right there, was this unknown depression, staying home, broke, playing Pokemon and punching holes in the wall. And that is part of the metaphor, right? Just staying home broke, and just understanding that I was broken, just feeling broken. Whether I could admit it or not, there was a level of confidence that probably wasn't there, but there was also a high level of confidence for things that I just already knew of myself or expected of myself. Next point I make is this, like, I don't know what necessarily led to this, but I will say the culture of the neighborhood shifted a lot, during 2012. I seen this since 05. 05 was the beginning of gentrification. I started seeing it. It probably began before then, but realistically, I started seeing a lot of it in 2005. And to the degree where I was like happy to see new houses and apartment buildings, because I was like, man, these new little nooks and crannies that are being built like in the middle of the block, like it's like they're just filling in a space. They found a small space and they just filled it in with like a 2-3 story apartment, like some just small shit. But the fact that they did these things, I thought that the people who were from the neighborhood were moving into those places. Come to find out, these new random white people would just move into the area. And just in general, new middle class people from all around the country just moving into Seattle. So it started to throw me off a little bit because I started seeing that since '05, but in 2012 it was more rampant. But so was crime in the city. Around that same time period, we were NFL, the Seahawks, Seattle Seahawks, excuse me. Seattle Seahawks were playoff contenders damn near every year. We had like one of the best defensive teams for 4 years straight. Went to the Super Bowl twice. Aside from that stupid ass play where they didn't hand the ball to Marshawn or whatever, dumb shit. Like it was just like a mix of that mixed with crime in the city, slightly at its all-time high. But again, I don't know statistics like that because we're also talking about crime that isn't being reported. Like this is like I was growing up seeing shit that no one really talked about. Like you would see some shit, and be like, God damn, but no one's like calling 911 like every fucking day, unless it really got out of hand or someone got shot and you need like a medic. But that's a whole other conversation because in that same time period, a lot of my friends are making money. They had as much time in the day as I did. They had all the free time in the world. They had all the free time in the world to kind of just sit around at the house or wherever it is they were staying at. If they're staying at the OG's trap house or just another friend's house or whatever, they're just staying on someone's couch. But these people were making money and they're doing the most they could, just breaking into houses. So like I said, there was an influx of gentrification at that time period. And a lot of people were breaking into houses and making a lot of money. Lots of TVs being sold and flipped. A lot of PlayStations, a lot of gaming systems, a lot of Rokus, anything that was an electronic thing, anything that was a valuable, collectible, any form of shoes or whatever that were in people's houses that could be stolen. Anything that could be stolen was being taken out of people's houses in that time period and being flipped. And a lot of people were making money. I joke around a lot about whether it was that time period because a lot of those were my friends who were like, we were all in our high teenage years, if not like, later teenage years, early 20s. And even people who were between the ages of like 14 to 17, you had a couple thousandaires in the neighborhood. You had guys who were just had money, like thousands of dollars at a time. People seen their first 10,000, people seen their first 50,000 in their teens. A lot of that was the drug game. A lot of that was drug dealing. There was a lot of that was when certain buses would go all the way south and north. Certain buses would go all the way east, all the way west. People were on that bus with like $1,000 worth of merch, $1,000 worth of product, and they would just do it every day, every week. So they started making all this money, taking the same money, re-up, buy it again, and then just sit on the profits for a while, do it again. So thousands of dollars are being made. There was teenage thousandaires during that time period. And when certain things started to slow up and the system and the game started getting cracked down on, you had people just like, well, what's next? Oh, we got all these damn people moving in the neighborhood. All these people living right here next to Whoop Wop. Certain neighborhoods were always already adjacent to middle class, if not rich people. So those fences were getting hopped. This is like pre-high-tech security cameras and shit. Things were getting robbed. You know what I mean? So a lot of houses were being robbed in a great time period. A lot of people were making bank. I'm not trying to glorify it. I'm not trying to say that this is the thing to do, but it's just something that happened. And it was just happening in my neighborhood. It started to affect the other neighborhoods. And people just started catching on, and a lot of robberies were happening. A lot of other people who couldn't, you know what I'm saying, they didn't know how to get out of Dodge and just get, it's all about the gear, man. It's all about the money. It's all about that. When you start taking lives in the process, you start threatening people's kids and babies and shit like that. That's where you fucked up. But the game is the game, right? The game is the game. So I was at a crossroads. I was sitting there dealing with a lot of stuff, if I'm being honest. 2012 was interesting. I got out of that funk. But if I'm honest, I got out of that funk, but I was still vulnerable, pause. And when you're in that state, you think the only thing you can do to hold on to your freedom, and hear me out when I say this, because everyone's houses were being robbed, I already knew my house was probably going to be a target next. Now, we weren't like rich like everyone else, but we had shit, don't get me wrong. So as much as like, I lived with a handicapped mom and a handicapped grandpa. They're both physically handicapped. So my thing is like, motherfuckers overnight or in the daytime, they're gonna try to plot on the house. So me staying home, whether I was jobless and just being like a, just like a, I don't want to say a street kid, but I would just walk down the street. So I guess you could say it in that regard. But whether I was just like this kid from the neighborhood or just like someone who was jobless at the time, I was like, I'm gonna stay put and stay around because somebody tried to run up in this house, I'm gonna have to dead them. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to take care of that real quick and with quickness. It's really easy. Lay somebody the fuck out, real simple. I'm over here looking at this right here, though. So that would have, but I knew, I was like, I'm willing to do that. Somebody breaking this house, but at the same time, I need to make ends meet because I'm tired of waking up every morning, looking at my grandpa coughing and wheezing, and he needs the right medication. He doesn't get money. He only gets like money and certain things once a month. You know what I'm saying? So he's just over here suffering in the bed, and meanwhile, people trying to plot on the house in the neighborhood, in the area. And then you not to come to our door, and then you not to come to our window, because my brother already tapped on the window with his pistol, like, fuck around and find out. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother conversation. But that was when we first moved to that spot. But then you not to fuck with us, but it was busting like that. It was just busy. People will do shit behind your back and act like they didn't do nothing just to come up. And I was willing to do either one. I was willing to do point blank up in people's faces, start knocking them out, taking shit off the spot, or just going right up in people's homes, you know, because I started to walk down the street. I was already in this depressive funk, whether I knew it or not. And I was sitting there just like, you know, I would nod my head to everybody. I just acknowledge everybody walking down the street. And all these new white people moving in the neighborhood would sit there and they would act a little pompous. At least that's how it came across to me. They wouldn't acknowledge me. And I was just like, yeah, that shit kind of weird. And I realized that shit was starting to get to me. So I was like, I'm going to low-key start following some of these people home and start robbing their shit. That's what it almost came down to. But, you know, realistically, a lot of people moving to Seattle just on some weird shit. They're already introverts and weirdos in the cities that they come from. So they come here thinking they're going to fit in. But they really just made the city worse and more awkward, if we're being honest. Because there was a culture and there was a level of culture and like hospitality in the city, especially in my neighborhood, because a lot of it's a lot of people from down south, a lot of southern people that moved to my area, a lot of Louisiana people, majority Louisiana people, I'll say that much. But yeah, man, that was the interesting part. Like I said, I was at the Crossroads in 2012. I was willing to break into houses and rob people. I was at that weird time in my life. Like I remember that. Yeah, I remember being around the culture so much. I remember just being like seeing all my friends from like the middle school era and even kids I knew from like way back then. And we're all older now, but they're asking me like, hey man, do you want an Xbox? They would just randomly have Xboxes and PlayStations in their backpacks. Dude, I would go to the corner store just buying like, you know, chicken wings with hot sauce and chips and soda and shit. And then random people like, hey man, you need a bicycle? I was like, how much you selling the bike for? And they would give me a price. And you know, the thing about it was they'd be charging like $90 to $100 for a bike that they stole. But if you had $20 for them or $10, they would have took it, like, because they took it for free anyway. They robbed the shit. They took it for free, so they'll take anything for it. They were like, I don't give a fuck. I'll just give you this shit. Like, I'm just gonna take more shit and then make more money off of more shit. Because you don't think about it is, when you were doing drugs had like a straight up, this is the price range. This is the set price for this amount. For that, like, I don't even know my measure. I don't know shit about drugs. It's like the level of grams or whatever. Should be like 10, 20, but I don't fucking know. Some people are always making 10, 20 at a time, but when you rob some shit, you got it for free anyway. So you would have sold it for whatever, like on some crackhead shit. That's what you would have did. Anyway, during that same time period, man, shout out to this dude Henry, man. You know, I don't really see eye to eye with bro. He always seems like he was on some weird shit, but he's not a bad person. He just always seemed kind of weird because he would always have these conversations about me without me. But that's, you know, that's still my guy. I just don't understand why he was on some weird shit. But during that same time period, there were two things that were happening. The main thing was what I wanted to do. I started, you know, like I said, when I was working at that job with the gym, working at the gym, my boxing gym, I was making some good amount of money. The first few things I started flipping my money on, this is like 2011-ish, leading up into 2012. First things I flipped my money on was some equipment. We went to Guitar Center, me and my guy Dabu, and you know, I didn't have enough to get the microphone, the cords, the audio box, and the programming and all that shit. I didn't have the amount of money for it. My guy did. My guy Dabu did. He said, listen, I'll pay for it, and he just paid me back. I was like, I got you. And I would just slowly start paying him back, and you know, he wasn't tripping on it, but he was just like, I mean, just pay me back whenever, bro. But at the same time, are we gonna do this music thing? So we started doing the music thing because everyone else that said they wanted to do it, they didn't want to do it, but he was the only person that was down. So I give him credit. You know what I'm saying? He really patiently sat there with me when I was trying to figure out my sound and figure out my flow, and I was doing hundreds of takes at a time, 50 to 100 takes at a time. So I always give that guy his props. My bad, let me check this out. I'm monitoring my live stream here on the side. I might have saved myself by inserting myself into hip hop and trying to really create this mixtape and this album back in that time period. But in the process of that, I started going to these poetry writing circles, you know? I was like, man, I'm gonna refine my craft as much as possible. I'm gonna attend everything I can. I go to open mics, I'll spit my shit. If my shit's trash, I'm gonna come back next week. You know what I'm saying? But people seem to love my shit. It would just be in rap form. I go to these open mics, and I go to those writing circles. First one I went to was all cool. I was like, damn, I got a chance to meet the people in that scene. Went to the second one. I met shout out to my friend Kalayo, aka KP, Rope and I. Shout out to them. They went by a different name at the time period, but I met them, and they started to ask me like, "Are you Filipino? You look Filipino." Started introducing me to like the Filipino organizations. Went to a third one, nobody showed up. But then my guy Henry was there, and he was just like, I mean, shit, me and you, we could just kick it, and we could just ride together down at Westlake. So we went down to Westlake, and we're in the middle, we're in the heart of all that shit. It's going down, and we're just writing. And then at the end of that session, he was like, listen, man, that was cool. You ever heard of Freedom School? I was like, I don't know what that is. And he said, listen, I didn't know what the fuck that bullshit was. But, you know, and it's funny because he was like, they're going to have a free lunch. It's going to be like 4 or 5 days a week. You should check it out. You know, you might be interested in it because it sounds like some shit that you'd be talking about. I said, interesting. I started showing up to the Freedom Schools. Anyone that wants to look that up, look up Tyree Scott Freedom Schools. A lot of the teachings from that come from institutionalized racism and prison industrial complex. You know, a lot of those things were mixing together. This was during the time period that we were trying to stop the 200 million, if not the billions of dollars going into the new juvenile detention center that they tried to frame as a family and youth center, but they didn't really say what it was. You know, they had the nerve to say it was infrastructure, but it's a whole nother conversation. There was some stuff on the ballots that we kind of organized and worked around, but again, I was more on the people side rather than, you know, people working with people, talking to people, being a friend type of side than the actual logistics and the knowledge side. Because I can't really, you know, I can't grasp it like the smartest people in the room. I ain't gonna be like that. But I'm on some human being shit. I'll sit there and interact and communicate with you all day. I'm an organizer in the sense that I'll organize people. I keep people on point and just make sure everyone's mental's good. I'm just one of those. But everybody play their role. Play your role, man. Stop acting like you gotta be everything and everybody. Just play your role, man. I know who the fuck I am. I ain't the smartest person in the room. I already know that. But I'm sharp and I knock somebody the fuck out. I'm one of those. But, you know, my thing was like, during that time period, again, this is 2012. All this is happening. Like I said, all this is happening, getting out of depressive funk, considering robbing these houses, considering making this money like that. But in that same time period, like I said, I was also doing, you know, it was a very hostile, volatile, you know, whatever. Hostile and volatile. It was just, the environment was just like that. So my thing was, how do we go about this, man? All right, we're going to get ourselves out of here with this mixtape, with this album. We're going to keep creating music and going down that same path. Led me down the little poetry path. The poetry path led me down to the Filipino organizational people, the YUIR Youth Undoing Institutional Racism, stuff like that. You know, meeting those people over in YUIR, EPIC, and even like the American Friend Service Committee, all that shit, like the little, what do you call this shit? The Quaker organizations, you know, things like that, just having access to all these things and being able to travel and things like that, taking my first plane rides with these people. So I say, like, in that same time period, organizing in hip hop to some degree saved my life, because I would have just went down the street line of stuff where I'm like, I don't really want to do this shit, but it's available, but it keeps me available at the house so nobody runs up in our shit. I can run up a check doing my thing, and then someone try to run up on us, I'm taking them out the game. It's over, man. We got all type of shit hitting you upside the head, whatever we need to. You know what I'm saying? But that was the time period where, like, that kind of thing, all those things were kind of happening. And those things in turn kind of saved my life to some degree. Because who knows how I would have ended up, whether I was, you know, like, you know, everyone says, if you're dead or in jail, the thing about being dead or in jail is you no longer are available to protect people. You're no longer available to take care of people, to be a caregiver, to be available to earn money and then take care of people and then help them with their shit. So it comes down to that. Yo, I feel like the phone is just moving over and over. That's what it is. There we go. So we'll keep it like this. It's not even me, it's the phone. The phone is twitching, that's what it is. I'm over here moving this, but the phone was twitching because the backside pause is not even. So yeah, man. But yeah, I urge people to look that up. Tyree Scott Freedom Schools, a lot of those teachings for things related to that, they stem from the teachings that come down from, like, the Mississippi church bombings. You know, when the churches were being bombed in Mississippi, the terrorist acts that were happening to those black churches and black schools, and the kids were being killed in as a result of just some white person's racism. Like, you know, certain churches and schools and places where, like, black people would be at were being targeted and bombed, and a lot of those teachings were just like, hey, kids they're wondering why random people are dying, or these random explosions are happening in these communities right now during this time of civil rights and, you know, things like that. So they started having these teachings for these kids in school, and a lot of it dealt with a lot of things that were happening down south in the deep south. So those same teachings started to go across America. Obviously, like people, organizers that were from different parts of in different cities, especially cities that had black populations in the country, were getting their teachings from down south, and then kind of flipping it and utilizing it in their school systems or their community projects in their cities. So we were one of them. We happen to be one of them, and we happen to be partnered up financially with those Quaker organizations and stuff like that. So that's the history of that. That's my understanding of it. So we had access to those things. But again, simply just being around that, and even growing up in a black neighborhood, a lot of it was relevant to me. So that's my thing. That's what I'm trying to say, is like doing all these things, traveling to Poland because of them, traveling to the Philippines because of the other Philippine organization. Shout out to Alay del Cultura, the arts sector of Bayan, if you will. And then shout out to the AB guys that I knew, you know what I'm saying, the Nagbayan guys that I knew, and shout out to Gio, all them people, because even just simply just meeting these people and accessing them, shout out to Gabriel Teodros, all those people, just meeting these people and finally having a conversation with them and just talking to them. Shout out to Youth Speaks, you know what I'm saying, the poetry organization, even though they were dealing with their issues with their parent or sister organizations that were handling the finances and all this other shit, like, you know what I mean, like all that kind of intricate stuff that people would beef over but not really talk to each other about. That's where I started drawing the line with a lot of people. I was like, listen, man, as much as I show up to these rooms and I want to help other people, and I'm helping the people who are the most in need, I go back to a household, if not a neighborhood, where we are the most in need. So it's like I'm helping people, but I need to be helping myself. And that's kind of why I stepped away. But that's a whole other conversation right there. But we might get into that in the next one. We'll see what the next topic's about. I say that to say that, man, 2012 was an interesting crossroads in my life. I was facing a lot of, I was getting out of a funk. I was looking forward to doing certain things, and my mind was set on, like, just doing something for myself. And I was able to collaborate with people who wanted to collaborate with me. That was the music side of things. That was the organizational side of things. And a lot of these things found me. A lot of people just gave me the idea. A lot of people gave me the opportunities, and I took them. So I will say, like, I don't know when anyone sees or views this video. 2012 was the crossroads of all that. All this was happening at the same time period. I kept myself moving. All I can really say is, like, please just try to keep yourselves moving. I'm not trying to do all this just to speak about myself, but hopefully it gives you an insight. But like, yes, you can be in a weird funk where you're struggling. You don't have access to these university spaces and places yet. However, you work on yourself and you work on the way there, you can start accessing these things. Certain things and certain people are gonna die along the way, unfortunately. But you can keep progressing. And you can keep staying alive. You can keep fighting to make sure everything sees it through to the end. That can be you. Excuse me. And that's all I can really say. I'm a living testament of that. From that time period to now. It's 2026, so we're 14 years past all that. I'm not going to say much hasn't changed, but a lot has happened since then. A lot of good and bad, and I'm continuously going to keep on fighting and moving forward for my existence and for my own peace. You understand? So, hey, man, the game don't stop, man. There it is. Listen, man, I'll leave it out there. You got to clear out the nose and the throat. Pause. You know what I'm saying? Figure out the next topic. Catch you on the next video, all right? Ooh, hold on. There it is. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. Peace. I'm out.